One of the reasons we started the podcast was because I would watch the news, and I renamed the news because I think it should be called Bad News.
Yes, right.
And you were talking about that, I think, in your book, your recent book, because I think the perception everyone has is that violence is on the rise because we see all the time in the news about all these violent actions taking place. And so part of the reason of London Real is we try to put someone forward that just has something interesting and positive to say every week. But I was wondering if you could talk more about your book, The Better Angels of Our Nature, and your theory of how violence has decreased over time and how we might not perceive it so because of the media.
Absolutely. What makes the main idea of Better Angels so surprising, the main idea being that violence has been in decline over the long term of human history, is, as you say, you open the paper. Paper, by the way, is this thing that print out of
language.
They used to deliver to your doorstep. You could buy it at a stand, just for those people who may not know what I'm talking about. Or you read the news.
I still like a newspaper these days.
Right.
I'm showing my age.
Yeah, same here. But you whether it's on TV or internet or old-fashioned dead trees. News is about stuff that happens, not about stuff that doesn't happen. And as long as rates of violence haven't gone down to zero, which obviously they haven't, there's always enough of it to fill the news. And so if your impression of how violent the world is comes from the news, you'll think not only is it as violent as ever, but you'll think that it's more violent than ever before, because now everyone's a reporter. All it takes is a cell phone, and there are 7 billion of them. Many of them can do color video footage, which they can upload to the internet. And so everyone is a war reporter. So the violence that takes place, and granted there still is a fair amount of it, is in our face. But the parts of the world that are not at war, no one is beaming video footage of a peaceful street corner in Nicaragua or Angola or Mozambique or East Timor, places that had horrific bloodshed in the past that thankfully we don't hear about anymore. So it's only when you look at numbers, when you actually look at how many people are killed as a proportion of the population, that you can really appreciate how much more peaceful the world is today. This is true in the scale of homicides, where, say, in Britain, an Englishman today has about 1/35 the chance of being murdered as his medieval ancestors.
Fascinating stats.
And it's a surprise when you see those curves, and they go down from the year 1200 to the present. I was shocked when I first saw that graph, and most people today are surprised when they first see it. The fact that we don't even appreciate this, but big, rich countries don't go to war with each other anymore. So Britain and France are not at war. Britain and Germany, Britain and America.
Right.
That used to be what big countries and empires did. They were always at each other's throats.
America and Soviet Union, that's what I grew up with.
Yeah, exactly.
Cold
Then
War.
as of 1945, that stopped. Korean War was the last time that two big, powerful countries fought each other. Now, there's still lots of nasty wars involving smaller countries, and too many of them, but they don't kill as many people as the good old-fashioned wars between big, rich countries with their big, rich armies. And even in the developing world, which continues to have far more wars than the developed world, but even there, if you actually plot the number of wars over time and the number of deaths in war over time, it's also gone down, particularly since the end of the Cold War. Then there are other things that people kind of knew all along and have to be reminded of, but slavery used to be legal everywhere on Earth. Now it's not legal anywhere. Wrongdoers were, and where wrongdoing could mean stealing a cabbage or criticizing the king, could be put to death in the most grisly, gruesome form of torture imaginable: disemboweling, crucifying, breaking on the wheel, burning at the stake. Then the corpses of a hanged man might be displayed in public and rotting on the Tower Bridge.
I actually looked this up right down the road here on Tyburn, which is basically Hyde Park Corner. The last guy was hanged, I think it was 1867. Yeah, it was the last public
execution. And did they leave his body to rot? I think that may have been a few decades after they abolished that practice.
Yeah, I think you're right. But it would be like something you would go down and go see as a social
event.
Oh, yeah,
you bring out the kids. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hookers would be there drumming up business.
But people are still inclined towards the voyeurism of violent things it's just expressed differently, right?
I think they're inclined toward it, and as a purveyor of mixed martial arts, you make
well,
your living that way.
it, yeah.
That's right. I don't think the brain has changed. I think we still enjoy watching violence. We enjoy imagining ourselves in violence. We pay other people to do it for us now, and they do it voluntarily. So I don't think the brain has changed, and there are all kinds of other forms of violent entertainment that we enjoy, both lowbrow, like the Schwarzenegger movies, and highbrow, like Shakespeare, like Homer, but we don't do it to each other nearly as much. Even more recently, if you look over the last couple of decades, this is not just a trend over millennia, but I don't know if in Britain you have the same campaign against bullying that we have in the U.S.
I don't think it's actively. Is there?
There's TV advertisements and things like that. I'm not sure how effective they are.
It's a big deal in the United States. The President Obama gave a speech against bullying. Oprah Winfrey, who has this enormous group of followers, has campaigned against it. There are laws against it. This is for a behavior that, when we were kids, was just part of growing up. Boys will be boys. The idea that it would be a national priority to stamp out bullying among little boys would have seemed ludicrous just 20 years ago. But now it is a major focus of social service agencies, and it has been effective. That is, rates of bullying have gone down in every country that has gathered statistics. So it's an ongoing process. The international campaign against violence against women is another example. Probably the animal rights movement is yet another one. The campaign against persecution of gay people is yet another. So it's a process that's still, I think, going to go on, and but it seems to be we're in a phase of a trend that has been going on for centuries or millennia.
Do you see it continuing? I mean, are we aiming towards a sort of peaceful utopia at the end of the line? Or how?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll be a utopia. I think we'll still get on each other's nerves. I think there'll still be barroom brawls every once in a while. There'll still be terrorist groups, because all it takes is half a dozen unemployed men sitting around a barber shop or a pub to form the Popular Front for the Liberation of whatever. But I do think that, and there can be nasty surprises. There can be, some narcissistic despot could take over a country and think that it's a really good idea to start conquering territory or spreading revolution. So there are nasty shocks. There are, I think, a baseline level of violence that, except for a totalitarian state, you're never going to stamp out to zero. But aside from that, I think the general trend is going to continue to go down. That is, I think the world, just as it took a while for the world to get around to abolishing slavery everywhere, and parts of countries in the Middle East didn't do it until the 60s, but it did happen. And I think that's also going to happen for things like gay rights and domestic violence against women. It won't be instantaneous, it won't be smooth, but I think history is going to push in that direction. And it's not because I think that there's some kind of mysterious dialectical arc of justice that's going to bring us to utopia. I think it's just like other human problems that human ingenuity has been set to chipping away at. Shortages of food. People don't starve to death in the same numbers that they used to. Disease. People don't die of smallpox and polio anymore, just because smart people have worked together to try to bring the rates down. Now, we haven't eliminated all disease, and we probably never will eliminate all disease, but we can eke out longer and longer lifespans, a few months, a few years at a time. And likewise, violence is a scourge. We're really better off if we don't kill each other than if we do. And the problem is, how do you get the other guy to agree not to commit violence at the same time as you do? If you're a unilateral pacifist, if you beat your swords into plowshares, but the other guy keeps his as swords, you could be in big trouble. The question is, how do you get everyone to beat their swords into plowshares at the same time? It's not so easy. But it's a problem that we use our ingenuity for. Democracy, United Nations, all kinds of other, Oprah speaking out against bullying on TV. Each one of them, I think, is a little increment that lowers violence on average by a bit, and we're going to keep trying.